Imagine you're on a beach vacation in Bulgaria. Sun, sand, cold beer, good vibes. You're a young guy, 20-something, whole life ahead of you. And then, one bar fight later, everything changes. Not in the way you'd expect, not in a way anyone could explain. Because 5 days after that fight, you are seen on a single security camera, sprinting out of an airport, running from something or someone that no one else could see. And then, you vanish, completely, without a trace. No body, no ransom note, no goodbye, just gone. This is not a movie. This is not a fictional thriller. This actually happened to a real person, a 28-year-old German man named Lars Mittank, and to this day, nobody knows what happened to him. Let that sit for a second. We live in a world where everything is tracked. Your phone knows where you are. Google knows what you searched at 2 a.m. Banks know every dollar you spend. And yet, a man walked out of an airport camera frame in 2014 and simply ceased to exist. So today, we are going all the way in. Every detail, every theory, every unsettling piece of evidence. Because this case will mess with your head in ways you are not ready for. Let's start from the beginning. It's the summer of 2014. Lars Mittank is a young German guy from Wilhelmshaven, a coastal town in northern Germany. By all accounts, he's a normal dude. He's got friends, he works, he enjoys life. He and a group of friends decide to take a vacation to Golden Sands, Bulgaria. It's a popular beach resort destination, especially among young Europeans. Cheap, beautiful, full of energy. Exactly the kind of place a group of guys in their mid-20s would want to spend a week. For the first few days, everything is perfectly normal. Sun, parties, drinks, the whole thing. And then, on July 6, 2014, something goes wrong. Lars gets into a fight. The details of what exactly started it are not entirely clear, but what we know is this. It involved a group of Canadian tourists, reportedly over a soccer argument, and Lars ends up on the losing end of it. He sustains an injury to his ear, not catastrophic, but bad enough that doctors advise him against flying. Specifically, the pressure change during a flight with that kind of ear injury could cause serious damage. So what does Lars do? He tells his friends to go home without him. He'll stay back a few extra days, let the ear heal, then fly back to Germany. Simple enough plan, right? His friends leave. Lars is now alone in Bulgaria. And this is where things start to get strange. Almost immediately after his friends leave, something shifts in Lars. The people around him start noticing it. The staff at the hotel where he was staying reported that he seemed different, nervous, jumpy, paranoid even. He started making requests that didn't quite make sense. He asked to have the lock on his room changed. He refused to let the maintenance staff or hotel workers inside his room. He was acting like someone who believed they were being watched or followed. On July 8th, just 2 days after his friends left, Lars calls his mother back in Germany. Now this phone call, this is important, and honestly, it's one of the most chilling parts of this entire story. He tells his mother that he is scared. He is genuinely frightened. He tells her that 4 men are after him, that these men want to do something to him. And then he says something that makes almost no logical sense in the context of a normal ear injury and a beach vacation gone slightly wrong. He tells her not to trust the doctors. He says the doctors are involved somehow, that they are part of whatever is happening to him. His mother, understandably alarmed, tries to make sense of what her son is telling her. She knows Lars. He is not someone who panics easily. He is not someone prone to wild stories or irrational fears. And yet, here he is, calling her from a foreign country, whispering that men are following him and that he cannot trust the medical professionals treating him. She urges him to come home. He agrees. He books a flight back to Germany for July 8th. Now, here is where the last known footage of Lars Mittank was captured. And if you have seen this footage, you already know why this case haunts people. Lars arrives at Varna Airport. He goes to the airport clinic first, presumably to get cleared for the flight, given his ear injury. He speaks with the doctor there, and then something happens. Whatever that doctor said, or whatever Lars saw, or whatever ran through his mind in that moment, we do not know. But the effect is immediate and unmistakable. Lars bolts. He leaves his luggage behind, his phone, his wallet, his passport, everything. He just runs out of the clinic, through the airport, and out the door. And there is a security camera that catches it. If you have not seen this footage, find it. It is roughly a minute long, and it is deeply unsettling. You see a young man, backpack on, walking through the airport with the kind of intense, wide-eyed energy of someone who believes with every cell in their body that their life is in danger. He is not casually strolling. He is moving like a prey animal, head on a swivel, eyes scanning. And then he reaches the exit, pushes through the door, and disappears into the area beyond the camera's reach. That was the last confirmed visual anyone has of Lars Mittank. After that moment, he is gone. Investigators and family members searched. His face was shared across media outlets in Germany and Bulgaria. His mother made desperate public appeals. People in the region were shown his photo. And for a long time, there was absolutely nothing. Then came the fragments. Shortly after his disappearance, a woman reported that she had seen a man matching Lars's description in the forest near the airport. He was living rough, apparently, sleeping outdoors, eating scraps, acting erratically. She said he seemed deeply disturbed and frightened. There were other scattered, unverified sightings over the following weeks and months, some in Bulgaria, some elsewhere in Eastern Europe. But none of them were confirmed with any certainty. None of them led anywhere. And then, in 2015, roughly a year after Lars disappeared, a farmer in rural Bulgaria reported finding a man living in a makeshift shelter in a wooded area near his property. The man was described as disheveled, malnourished, and completely non-communicative. He ran away before anyone could properly identify him or get close enough to help. Some people believed this was Lars. No one can prove it. His case remains open. His family has never received a definitive answer, and Lars Mittank has never returned. So what actually happened? Let's break down the theories, because there are several, and they range from the heartbreakingly sad to the genuinely terrifying. The most widely accepted theory, at least among medical professionals and many investigators, is that Lars experienced some form of sudden psychotic break, possibly triggered or worsened by the physical trauma of the ear injury, the isolation of being left alone in a foreign country, alcohol consumption, or some combination of all three. There is a documented medical phenomenon called delirium, or acute psychosis, that can occur under certain circumstances, including infections, trauma, or substance use. During such an episode, a person can experience paranoid delusions so vivid and convincing that they are completely indistinguishable from reality. They genuinely believe they are in danger. They genuinely believe people are following them. They genuinely believe the doctors cannot be trusted.
From the outside, it looks like madness. From the inside, it is the most real thing the person has ever experienced. Under this theory, when Lars called his mother and said men were after him, he was not lying. He was not making it up for attention. He was experiencing a psychological episode in which that was his reality. When he ran from the airport, he was running from something he could not have seen and no one else could have seen. And then, alone in a foreign country, without money or ID or phone, in the grip of severe paranoia, he simply survived in the wild for as long as he could, or did not survive, and his body has never been found. This theory is supported by the behavioral pattern, the sudden shift after his friends left, the paranoid requests at the hotel, the escalating fear in the phone call, the explosive, panicked run from the airport. All of it is consistent with a mental health crisis that spiraled out of control. But then there is the other side of the coin, because not everyone is satisfied with this explanation. Some people point to specific details that do not fit neatly into the psychotic break narrative. First, the timing. Lars was apparently completely fine, normal, enjoying his vacation, right up until the fight. Then, within a day or two of being alone, the paranoia begins. That is a very rapid onset. While not impossible, it raises questions. Second, some people have looked more closely at the fight itself, specifically at who the people were that he fought with. There are versions of this story that suggest the altercation was not just a random scuffle over soccer, but that it may have involved people with connections to criminal networks operating in that region. Golden Sands in 2014 was not exactly known as the safest destination. The area had a documented history of organized crime activity. Under this darker theory, Lars did not imagine that he was being followed. He was being followed. Something happened during or after that fight that put him on someone's radar. Maybe he witnessed something. Maybe the fight itself had consequences beyond a bruised ear. And the paranoia his family and the hotel staff observed was not a mental health crisis, but a completely rational response to a very real threat. And if that is true, running from the airport was not madness, it was survival instinct. This theory would explain why his body has never been found. It would explain the seemingly genuine terror in his voice on that phone call with his mother. And it would explain why, even a decade later, no concrete information about his whereabouts or fate has ever surfaced. Because some disappearances are solved by accident. Someone finds a body, someone talks, a record surfaces somewhere. But if there are people with resources and motivation ensuring that no information comes out, nothing comes out. There is a third theory that circulates in certain corners of the internet, and I want to address it because it is out there, though I want to be clear that there is essentially no credible evidence supporting it. Some people believe that Lars faked his disappearance, that the entire episode was staged, perhaps to escape debt, or some personal situation, or simply to start over somewhere new with a clean identity. But the argument for this theory usually goes something like he conveniently left everything behind, including his passport and phone. He somehow survived out there. The sightings in the forest and the farmer's account suggest he was alive and mobile. And if he was that capable of surviving on his own, perhaps the whole terror act was just that, an act. But this theory falls apart under any serious scrutiny. Why call your mother and terrify her? Why leave in such a visibly panicked way on camera? If you are planning a disappearance, you do not sprint through an airport on security footage. You quietly book a different flight. You make arrangements. You don't abandon your passport and wallet. The performance, if it was a performance, was a strangely irrational and damaging one. And it would mean that Lars has been, for over a decade, perfectly fine somewhere, watching his mother make tearful public appeals and simply choosing to stay silent. That level of cold calculation seems deeply at odds with every account of who Lars was as a person. So we are left, really, with two serious possibilities. A man lost in the prison of his own mind, wandering through a foreign landscape without anchor or identity. Or a man who stumbled into something he was never supposed to see and paid for it in the most permanent way imaginable. Neither answer is comforting. Both are haunting.
What makes this case different from other disappearances? What makes it so specifically disturbing is the footage. Most missing persons cases are defined by absence. There is no final image. There is no last known moment captured in high definition for the world to replay and dissect. With Lars, we have that moment. We can watch it over and over. And something about watching another human being in that state, in that specific kind of terror, something primal activates something in us. Because on some level, we understand that feeling, that animal, adrenaline-soaked conviction that something is wrong and you need to move now. Most of us have felt a shadow of it, a dark parking lot, a footstep behind us that seemed too close, a moment where the hair on the back of the neck stood up for no reason you could name. Lars's footage is that feeling distilled into a minute of grainy airport video, and it is almost impossible to look away. His mother, Lars Mittank, has never stopped looking for him. She has done interviews, she has worked with investigators, she has traveled to Bulgaria, she has maintained a public presence around his case because she refuses to let his name become just another cold file in a cabinet somewhere. In interviews, she has spoken about the impossibility of not knowing. She says that the not knowing is the thing that breaks you. If there was a body, there would be grief, real, clean, devastating grief. But there would also be closure. There would be an end to the searching. With Lars, there is no end. There is just the permanent, aching question mark. And that question mark has been there now for over 10 years. The Bulgarian authorities investigated at the time and found very little. Some reports suggest the investigation was not particularly thorough. There were criticisms from Lars's family and from German media about the level of effort put into the case. Whether that reflects genuine negligence, limited resources, jurisdictional complications, or simply the hard reality that disappearances in tourist-heavy regions are more common than people realize, it is hard to say from the outside. German authorities have been involved to varying degrees. The case gets periodically revisited in German media. There have been documentary segments, news features, amateur investigation videos with millions of views. None of it has produced a confirmed answer. In 2015, there was a period of significant renewed interest when multiple potential sightings were reported in the Bulgarian countryside. Local media covered it. His mother traveled back to Bulgaria, and yet nothing confirmed. What we know for certain is this. On July 8, 2014, Lars Mittank walked through Varna Airport, pushed through a door, and has not been officially seen since. He was 28 years old. He was a German national. He had brown hair, stood around 5 feet 10 inches, and in that footage, he was wearing a gray t-shirt and carrying a backpack. If he is alive today, he would be in his late 30s. He would have spent over a decade living off the grid, which is extraordinarily difficult in modern Europe. Every country has cameras, records, systems. To truly disappear and stay disappeared for that long, you would have to be either extraordinarily determined or extraordinarily broken. If he is not alive, his remains have never been found despite years of searching, which means either they were concealed or they are in a location remote enough that they have not been stumbled upon. Both possibilities are terrible in their specific way. There is something this case forces us to confront that we do not usually like thinking about.
the fragility of identity, the speed with which a person can go from a normal Tuesday on a Bulgarian beach to a ghost, the way a single event, a single moment, a single fight, or a single fear can unravel everything. Lars Mittank had a life. He had a mother who loved him. He had friends who vacationed with him. He had a home in Germany he was planning to return to. And then he didn't. Not because of a car accident or a diagnosed illness or any of the things we usually think of when we imagine a life ending. Just a trip that went sideways, a fight, an injury, and then something happening in his mind or in the world around him that no one has ever fully explained. We want stories like this to have endings. We want the mystery to resolve. We want the footage to have a sequel where Lars walks back into his mother's arms, or where investigators crack the case and bring justice, or at least truth.
But real life is not structured that way. Real life sometimes just leaves the question hanging in the air indefinitely, heavy and unanswered. If you are watching this and you know something about Lars Mittank's disappearance, whether you encountered him in Bulgaria, whether you recognized him from a later sighting, whether you have any information at all, there are organizations and hotlines specifically set up to receive tips in cases like this. His case is still active. His mother is still waiting. And for the rest of us, the ones watching from the safety of our screens, processing this the way we process all true crime, with morbid fascination and a little private gratitude that we are not the ones in that footage, this case is a reminder of how quickly the ordinary can become the unimaginable, of how alone a person can be in a foreign place, of how the mind, under enough pressure, can become the most dangerous place in the world, or of how the world itself, under the wrong circumstances, can become a place from which there is simply no escape. Lars Mittank, missing since July 8, 2014, 28 years old, last seen running, still missing, still unfound, still waiting, somewhere to be understood.